Hey everyone, this is Rock from StageandSky.com. We need to talk about this whole notion of men are intimidated by women, right? Like we've been hearing it for years now. Oh, women, they'll complain, like they're boss babes, they're strong and independent, and they'll say things like, oh, well, the reason why I'm not getting any men or they're not coming after me is because they're intimidated by me. They'll say this, like, check out this highlight.
You guys are intimidating to men. You guys
heard that.
Well, okay.
I've been single for about a year. I've been told that I intimidate men.
I know men are intimidated by me because I know exactly what I want.
Doing that might be intimidating to a man.
I just want my equal, okay? Or at least an attractive, cultured man who's over 6 feet tall, makes 6 figures, and isn't intimidated by my success.
So I'm gonna address those ladies because I think there is some truth in what they're saying, honestly. Like, fellas, I know we're supposed to be strong and masculine. We ain't scared of nobody. But I do think that there is some truth in what they're saying when it comes to us being intimidated by them. And by intimidated, we're not talking about we're afraid they'll beat us up. But when we're around ladies like that who do present this very strong and and independent and almost masculine frame, we do feel uneasy around them. We feel inferior or beneath them in a sense, right? And if you're not, like say you're not, I'm not, because like Coach Greg Adams, he says, men aren't intimidated, we're just not interested. And I told myself that for years, as soon as I heard it from him, and I heard it from back in 2018, I used to tell myself, yeah, he's right. I'm not intimidated, I'm just not interested. But deep down, I think there is some truth in what they're saying. Some of us men, even us big guys, I'm 6'3", 200 something pounds, I box every day, I'm in good shape. It is a little bit intimidating when you deal with a woman who's very strong and independent. They're boss babes. They're in careers. So, and I matched with a couple of ladies a couple of years ago where they're, when you talk on the phone to them, it's like you're talking to another guy. When it comes to you being very strong and independent and a lot of guys being intimidated by you. So let's say that's true. If that is true, you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? Let's say you don't want to do anything about it. Let's say, oh, I like who I am. And if it's, and it's nothing wrong with me, it's the men that need to step up. Let's say that's true. And if you can't find any man that's willing to step up, you have a couple of choices. You could accept that this is the way I am. And if no man is masculine or man enough to be with me, then I'm just going to be alone forever. Or that's just one. I'm not suggesting you go that route. I'm just saying that's something you got to accept about yourself if you can't find, a strong masculine man to, meet you up on that level that you want to be. Or you could not tone it down. All right, let me put it this way. Ever since I was a kid, I was always the tallest kid in the class. I was always bigger than everyone, especially in elementary and middle school. I looked like, at the age of 14, I looked like I was about 18 or 21. When I noticed that there were people around me who felt uncomfortable because I was so big and truly intimidating, I smiled more. I was very nice. I chuckled a lot. I laughed a lot. I, made everyone, even black dudes, because even the biggest masculine, the football players, they see me, I get around them, it's like, oh, you look some ass. I would laugh. And as soon as I did that, everyone lowered their shoulders. Everyone was like, okay, it's safe. I can, chill around him. I'm not going to hurt you. And that made everyone around the room feel good being around me. And I learned that early on when I was, like I said, 14. So that's 8th grade. And all up to my life, I'm 36 now. That served me well. I'm still a big dude. I get around black dudes, I get around white people, and I'm successful in life when it comes to being around people because I can read the room and I can say, okay, everyone's a little bit stiff, let me lighten it up. I'm not saying that you have to do this. I'm not saying it's your job to do this. I'm not even saying that you have the pressure to do it. It's, but you have options. If the people around you are intimidated by you, there is something you can do about it if you choose to. Or you can keep being who you are and say, well, I guess I'm just going to be who I am. Because very often what I'm seeing from these ladies who are strong and independent and they say all these men are intimidated, they wear it with the badge of honor. And they almost the shame men. And honestly, here's the thing. Here's a secret about us men. Ladies, I'm just going to put it out there. Men don't like to complain about soft, affectionate stuff. Men don't like to complain about the lack of support. They don't like to complain about the lack of encouragement, the lack of, not nourishment, nurturing. And, like when it comes to affection from our women, you know, like the woman that we're with, you know, like, so say if we get together and, you know, it's fun, you know, I can hang around with you, I could joke with you, we can go out to eat and have a good time. But when it comes to times of intimacy where I just want, you know, you to be soft, you know, to be, you know, men aren't going to tell you, hey, I want you to cuddle up next to me. Hey, I want you to lay your head on my shoulder. Because men have egos. We really do, you know, and very often if we're around a woman who's constantly, you know, on guard, like they're like a guy, a lot of us guys, we do want someone who just makes us feel at home, you know, to be our peace. And a guy, the most masculine, most alpha males, right? The ones who probably looking at this right now, no, Rock, you saw it, I don't agree with you. Those men aren't going to tell you the truth. They will just ghost you. You know, very often when it comes to problems in relationships, oh, well, how come you don't talk to me? How come you don't tell me? Because they don't, it's a weak, like when it comes to being emasculated, I would say that's one of the most emasculating things a man can do is to tell his woman, hey, you know, I wish you were more affectionate. You know, I wish you kissed me on my cheek more. Pat me on the back, tell her it's going to be okay. Oh, you just want someone to be your mama? A little bit. Oh no, she ain't equipped to do that. Yeah, well, here's the deal with that. Just like our fathers and grandfathers, you want us to be as strong as them. Well, our mothers and our grandmothers used to be that way. It wasn't until the past 10 to 20 years or 30 years that mainstream media has tried to make women, or they push women to be more like men and men more like women. It's just, I think that men are still in the lane. You know, there are some who scattered about and they're in the feminine lane, but most of us by and large are still men, where it seems like, talking about American women, and this isn't bashy, but it's just what we see, right? You know, like you guys have kind of like drifted into the masculine lane, and then you get with us and it's like, you know, like even if you're hot, even if, you know, like I said, we can have fun, we do need the feminine support. You know, we need the yin to the yang. We need the thing to complement us, you know? So if you're all masculine and I'm masculine, how's that gonna work?
Era D, good morning. What do you think? You think women are more masculine than feminine?
No, I think that depending on the situation, the woman's gonna show her femininity. Like if you're not giving enough energy where we feel the need to be soft and supple, then we're not going to be. We're going to be, I guess, more masculine, but all in all, not at all.
And you see, nothing is rooted in principle. Everything is about how they feel. She's talking about that fake femininity, conditional femininity, like I've been saying for years now. You cannot switch it on and off. You're either feminine or you're not. And most of them are not, which is why they can't get the men they want. And men, especially decent men, they are not going to negotiate with you on that, nor will they waste any time on you. They will go to the feminine women.
One more thing I had to add. You can see it was a couple days later, so I changed shirt. But ladies, when you do find the man that you're looking for, right? Because very often a lot of ladies say, well, I have to be masculine because I didn't have a lot of men in my life, so I had to be the man that I didn't have in my life. And we get that. I think a lot of us do have compassion for that. When I say compassion, for those who don't know, that means we're understanding of that. We don't, well, a lot of men like me, we don't slight it, right? You'll see the clip where it said, you know, well, would you accept a man who's feminine and wait for him to become masculine?
You all wouldn't care if a man came to you feminine and said, my dad wasn't in my life. My mom didn't teach me this. You say, bro, you 38 years old. I don't want to deal with a feminine man that hasn't addressed his issues. So for me, dealing with a woman that way, I'm going to tell you the same thing. I understand you had issues or whatever growing up and you had to be a certain way, but I'm not going to put up with it as far as trying to be in a relationship with you because you don't know how to be a feminine woman.
I'm not going to go to that level, but I will say, because for the ladies, this is for my sisters who are white, black, whatever, but all my sisters who are strong and independent and you do think that men are intimidated by it. When you do find a man who is what you say you want, which is a man who's masculine, who's very competent, who's responsible, and he knows how to lead, right? When you find that guy, do you let him lead, right? When you find that guy, do you mind him taking charge and just taking over the reins and just driving this wagon, right? Because very often what I find is that there is a sort of resistance, right? So very often what they'll do is they'll find a man who's strong and masculine, they'll be attracted to him, and then you'll get in a relationship with this guy and you still want to drive the reins. Ladies will rise to meet and challenge him at his masculinity, and it's like, that's not attractive. And very often masculine men, we can see that during the dating period. So again, I don't encourage ghosting, but very often when men do ghost or they start to pull away, it's because they do see that there's no need for me in your life. Like, you got it.
Let me tell you something. A real man is not intimidated by a woman that doesn't need you. I am self-sufficient. I don't need a man. I don't need a man. But guess what? I want you, and that's the difference.
The more successful you become as a woman, the harder. I personally find men intimidated by me.
Yeah.
99% men who have insecurities feel inferior to a woman who doesn't need them, but actually wants them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the...
Because we are raising up women to be men.
Uh-oh.
I know you can buy your own car. I know you can buy your own house. But until you create a need that I can pour into, I have no place in your life. So stop coming home bragging to me about how much you don't need me and wonder why I shy away.
Who he sound like?
You're telling this man, especially again early on, that okay, you can pay all your bills, you can work hard, you're strong and independent, you travel the world, you have all these experiences, because very often a lot of ladies say that. I'm 36, so you got to figure a lot of ladies, they still have this mentality of, oh, well, you're 36, you should go with someone who's your own age. And I don't mind that if I could find someone who is still kind, humble, nice, nurturing, sweet, and they're teachable. Like they let me lead. They let me be the man that I am. Because very often, and this again, I understand, when you reach a certain age, when you're in your 30s, there's a reason why you're very strong and you're defined, you're set in your ways. You've been through a lot of stuff. A lot of guys, we understand that. But what are you going to do? Because you have a choice. Again, like earlier in the video, you have choices. You could accept that this is the way I am. Men are probably going to be intimidated. I don't care what any man says. There is a certain intimidation factor. You have a choice of accepting that this is your lot in life and keep doing you and hope that you find a man. But again, there's a clock in your ovaries, or when you meet the guy, I think there's nothing wrong with you being a strong masculine woman or a strong and independent woman, as because there's no suitors there. There's no one there that meets your eye. But when you do see the guy, God puts him in your life, whether it's at the gym or at the work situation, or, you meet him several times at the same grocery store. When you see him there,
how are you going to reprogram men so that they don't let us take over what's supposed to be their responsibility? And men that I have had dealings with, they are perfectly willing to sit back and let us do anything we want to.
I don't think that you have to reprogram men. I think you have to reprogram women.
No, you have to reprogram the man so that he will forcefully take what belongs to him, because women, as long as we can get, we're gonna get, and it's part of our being. We're going to do anything to you that you let us.
From woman's mouth, I'm not sure if she speaks for everyone, but from what I have seen, like the complaints that I have seen from all the compilations I've seen within the past 3 years, does seem to be this almost contradicting, I'm strong and independent, but men need to lead type attitude. I think Satan has a huge part in that, because I think let me put it this way, it goes against God's order for women. Let me just put the scriptures here so you can take God's, if you see you're sexist. Look at the scripture right here. It's on the screen, right? From what you're reading, what do you think God's order for men and women are? All right, and it's still on screen. Just read it. This is Ephesians chapter 5, right? This goes, what you're reading in Ephesians chapter 5, it goes against what the mainstream modern culture is pushing. And the reason why I think a lot of frustration, especially when it comes to black women, is because you're going against God's order. And it makes sense why you're frustrated. It makes sense why, men aren't this, and I'm looking for a man to do that, and even when I do find them, it's because you're going against God's order. And I say that with love and compassion, because I know it's tough. Peer pressure is tough. The herd mentality is strong, and you do need the social, you do need the village. A lot of you strong and independent women, damn well you're not that strong and independent, because you're dependent on other things, whether it's family or friends or your social group. You're dependent on that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Men and women, we're not supposed to be alone. It says that in the Bible, so I'm not saying that's a bad thing. However, you gotta follow God's instructions. The Bible is not just a rule book saying just do this and do this because I don't want you to, don't want you to have fun. It's God telling you, hey, this is the order. Because he made you, he knows you, right? So a lot of the scriptures that talk about the role of men and wife, the role of men and women, it's because God's trying to help you have an easier life.
What does submissive mean?
Submissive meaning in allowing him to lead in the relationship. Well, let me say this, because I think when people hear submission, they do think of dictatorship.
Right.
They think of doing as he says. They're thinking of this
His
power
way or the
struggle.
highway,
Yes. Submission, in my eyes, when it comes to relationship, is one, allowing that man to love you. What I mean by that is this: when a man is truly in love with a woman, he wants to do for her. He wants to provide for her. He wants to make sure she's good. If you don't submit to that, you're going to be in this energy that's, I got it, I can take care of it. It's not letting him love you. And in not letting him love you, you're carrying this unnecessary burden that's wearing you down.
Right? The more you resist God, the more frustration you're going to have, because it doesn't make sense. You know it to be true. I don't want to go into the message, but you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't make sense. And you're going against hundreds of years of traditions, thinking that we know it better here in 2023, and now you're upset and you're frustrated and you're mad at men because a lot of men aren't going with the system. That's it. That's really what I wanted to say, you know. That's, again, take it or leave it. This is just a man's perspective. And again, you're not going to hear this from a lot of men. But I know for me and my little brother, we talked about, he's married, and you know, like, it's sad to say, but a lot of women, I don't want to bash women, but a lot of women, one of the most endearing qualities I look for in a wife, when I look for a woman, is her ability, her compassion. Compassion is care for others, right? If you're more concerned about yourself, I'm going to get mine, I'm going to get my bag, you know, this is my life, you know, this is the way I live, and I'm just going to do me. And if you're more of that, not saying you're anything wrong with that, we can be the best of friends, the best of buddies, but I wouldn't marry you. You know, like, when it comes to a wife, when it comes to a helpmate, that's really what we're looking for as men, a helpmate. And a lot of women aren't raised, a lot of American women aren't raised like that anymore. Some are. We look for the ones that are, and we see that from the way they treat others. You know, like if you're caring, if you think about others, if you're, you know. And very often, you know, you can see that in women who, you know, once they find a guy, they will make an effort to do something for that specific guy, which is why a lot of us guys think that if you don't do stuff for us, it means it because you're not interested. All right, just wanted to share that because, again, I'm a big guy, and it's like, oh, well, people are strong and intimidating. Yeah, I keep hearing that. I'm like, yeah, I'm strong and intimidating, but I don't puff it, like, you know, walk my chest out thinking, oh, y'all weak. You know, spit on them. No, we like, okay, you know, I am intimidating. I want you to feel comfortable around me. I'm going to smile more. Also, it's not a pain for me to do that. I do enjoy making people happy. Silly, right? All right, I'm done.